Hey guys, welcome back to Warfare, welcome to Rock, Paper, Scissors. We're talking about planes versus tanks versus SPAA. Self-propelled anti-aircraft vehicle, that is what it stands for, and they are some of the most underplayed and underrated, albeit sometimes hated. The issue of SPAA is that they cost nothing, can be spawned at any given time in the game, are usually vehicles that players either don't have in the lineup or just don't want to play. They're the vehicles that usually result into you getting a crew lock because you've left the game without actually spawning in them, and whenever the people actually do spawn with them, they're usually sitting in the back of the map in their own spawn, or they're in the middle of the map looking at the ground rather than actually patrolling the aircraft. SPAA are simple to play. Now, before I give you an actual rundown of how to play SPAA, this is not generalized, which means the way I'm playing it on this map is not the way to play it on other maps. LL main, single capture point. It is in our best interest to rush the actual cap, get some spawn points, sit there, do a bit of a parameter search, eliminate any kind of enemy tanks we might find there, and then wait for the enemy aircraft to start spawning in and provide protection, and then we'll see how it goes, we'll move on. War Thunder ground forces should be played from lineups, and lineups usually include a tank you can capture with, a tank you can flank with, a tank you can enforce with, some sort of aircraft that you can use for close air support, maybe a fighter, you have an occasional bomber in, and obviously some sort of anti-aircraft support. For me, my lineup includes the Hanomag Henschel for the most common capture point capping. I'm using the Leo as my main backup. I've got the RE251 if I want to use that as a bit of a backup machine, the HOT if I want to use an ATGM. The Gepard obviously is my SPA of choice, and for respawning I'm usually using a combo between the Arando C3 and the CL13. Also, for any of you who are interested in actual lineups, on my Twitch page I do have a link. I will be including it hopefully today on YouTube as well, but it's a link to a Google Docs, and you can find a bit of a spreadsheet of what is, in my opinion, at the moment, is still work in progress, but what are the best lineups that you can have between battle ratings 5.7 and 9.0 for every single nation. Obviously, it's still work in progress, so we're kind of developing it, adding and removing certain vehicles, expanding it, compressing it a bit, seeing what kind of actual lineups work the best. And to do this, you have to play the lineup to the map rather than playing the tank to the map. And because we're playing vehicles based upon what the best scenario is on the map, rather than playing vehicles regardless of the map scenario, we can have a much more efficient kind of playstyle when going through. Now, as a player in an SPA, there's two main things that I know I can eliminate that I have superiority over: planes and light tanks. And this is where the complexity starts to show, because suddenly it's not just about rock, paper, scissors, you know, like one vehicle better than the other in a combined circle. SPAA are a great contender, and in often cases better than light tanks. Light tanks are ideal for going for the capture point, also for providing extreme flank scenarios against heavy tanks and mediums. The case of light, medium, heavy tank is usually that a medium tank is better than a light, a heavy tank better than the medium, and then the plane is better than the heavy tank. But what the SPA also has is obviously the ability to protect against aircraft. So different vehicles have different aggressive roles and better advantages over others. The main disadvantages of SPAA is that when you're not paying attention to enemy aircraft, you can very easily get surprised. Now, luckily for me, I was within a bit of a ditch. The enemy's aircraft was not very accurate with the rockets, and it resulted in me receiving no damage whatsoever. This is how accurate rockets are for anyone who's interested with close air support. If you're flying a plane, it might look very easy when you get killed in a tank, but in the actual plane, the scenario, the fast-pacing game, and the fact that you have to take out enemy SPA as fast as possible for you itself get taken out makes a bit of a more problematic and very, very tense scenario. So, with a plane in the air, my next objective is to start and try to find them. Now, this involves a lot of looking around, and playing the SPA will look like this. A lot of blue sky, clouds, and trying to find that little grey speck that is flying around. And if you're able to find it early enough, you'll be able to do a lot of damage and prevent your teammates from being taken out. And again, as soon as you spot the enemy player, react to it, start firing, but don't spray for too long. There's no need to. The enemy player knows where you are, and any player in an aircraft will know two things: to stay away from the SPA or to take it out immediately. If he decides to take it out, you're going to be in trouble. That means that you're going to have to start using the surrounding area, whether it's a ditch, whether it's a house, whatever it is, try to use it in your advantage to kind of prevent the enemy from being able to get close. But what you also can do is to spray from large distance, and you'll prevent the enemy aircraft from being too comfortable in actually getting close to you. Then comes the question of how to actually lead. Now, to lead these guns, there's no rule of thumb. Even after playing them for a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 matches, it's very, very hard to really tell the lead. One day you'll be very accurate, another day you'll be missing everything, and as just seen back there, I was unable to prevent the elimination of a friendly Leo, and we just got a kill assist. But we got bigger game to hunt. Somebody is capturing Alpha, and this is our main goal. Our main goal was to prevent this capture point from being taken. So, zero thoughts. I don't know what is in there. I don't care what is in there. My job is to try to at least get into the capture point before he caps, and I succeed in that. The enemy player is playing an M60, he's side on, not expecting me to come from that direction, and we get ourselves an easy kill, prevent the capture point, we deny him the spawn points, and we get ourselves a bit of extra spawn points along the way as well. And to understand what we just did is, we've just captured the point twice. We've gotten 2 kills, 2 assists, we're still alive in an SPA, which means we're preventing enemy aircraft from coming too close, albeit I'm about to miss an F-84 making an attack run, which luckily enough ends in me not dying, not quite yet. And we've given our team a good 1/3 ticket advantage, which means that the enemy team is now looking much more like losing, and we can play the game a little bit more relaxed. Now, the trick behind SPA, especially when they're played with aircraft, is that players like to just kind of bail out. Players love to spawn aircraft as soon as possible because they see others do very well in them. Aircraft is the most difficult role to play, and I'll cover close air support in a little bit, a couple of videos obviously, but close air support is extremely challenging because it requires precision, it requires a lot of situational awareness, and it requires target practice. You need to know which aircraft to eliminate if there's any aircraft up. You also need to know which tanks to take out first. Do you prioritize the capture point? Prioritize friendlies in danger? You have a lot of things to do in a very short amount of time, whilst you have to keep an eye out on every single tank on the battlefield, because if you're flying a plane and there's an SPA on the ground, you have to be wary of them, because if you come too close, you will get shot down. And with those things said, I think that bailing out of SPAA before you've done your full effectiveness isn't the way to do it. If you're going to do the SPAA, rushing and then spawning a plane, do the common courtesy and do as much work as you can with the SPA before you get taken out, which means you do not bail out, you get taken out. You give the enemy a couple of extra spawn points if needed, and if you are successful in the actual roll of the plane, those extra spawn points are actually called feeding. And there's a little bit of a tactic when it comes to feeding, because if you can feed the enemy points, and whilst that might sound like a bad idea, if you are very confident with what you're doing, especially in aircraft, by giving enemy spawn points, you're efficiently giving them free respawns, which means they'll be coming back and you can kill more players. For somebody like me, who was recently going through the massive amounts of kills, that is a huge benefit. So in a game that you know you're going to win, manipulating the points by giving them to enemy players can come very handy, because you can kill more of them, which results in more kills in your stat cards. Now, long-range sniping in SPA is probably one of the biggest struggles for most players, and how does it work? To be honest, it works in the sense of aim somewhere in the vicinity, look at the traces, assess the depth, and then if you're lucky enough, you're going to get a couple of hits in, perhaps set the enemy player on fire, or just hands down snipe them from the sky. There's no real rule of thumb when it comes to aiming these guns, but unlike killing tanks, there's no weak spot, there's no ammo rack positions or fuel tanks or crew members. Really, essentially, your job is just to hit the enemy plane. And to hit it, I tend to use the, well, kind of plane tactic, because all you gotta do is assess the lead, and lead works almost similar to the way it looks in air battles. So the way you do it is you're just trying to lead the guns, look at the traces, assess where they're flying, how much you're missing, and then if you're, lucky enough, which really it is just a matter of estimation, you'll be able to get some kills in. And it's only now that the tickets are 2/3 in our advantage that I'm gonna bail out and respawn the CL-30. And the reason I'm doing this is because we've come to the point in the game where I'm 100% certain, and there's no way right now the enemy team can win. We're just enforcing the victory. I'm trying to now go from the position where I know I'm winning to the position where I know I'm winning immediately. And the reason this happened is because if you stay in a match for too long, especially if you're inactive, and even though I'm standing in the middle of a capture point, if there's no enemy players attacking me, no planes strafing me, I'm not getting the maximum amount of points. And it was kind of funny because there was a player on the enemy team who went and flanked around the entire desert dunes to get into the southern spawn which means he's actually done absolutely nothing for himself because there's only one player there to kill, and he failed to do it that much. And with the second to last Sheridan being taken out, meaning I've only got one more kill to get, it felt like a bit of a waste, really, to bail out of an SPAA for that one extra kill, considering that we just, gave ourselves an extra death. It's worth it because of the time spent in the match. Now, whilst I'm confident the IT1 would have probably killed the Sheridan, this match perhaps would have ended at the same amount of time. Sitting in the capture point, even though we have the advantage and whatnot, is a waste of research points because we're not being active. And so to do myself and my team the courtesy, by respawning a plane that late in the game, we're still able to provide the winning portion maybe a couple of minutes earlier. We're talking about minute, 30 seconds, whatever it is, it does add on because if you play, 10,000 matches, save 30 seconds each one of them, do the math and you've saved yourself a generous amount of time. And time is really all it takes to understand that SPAA are not so much prey as they are predators. And to play it as a predator, don't just sit in an open field on the back of the map in your spawn, shooting wildly at an enemy plane. Go closer, protect your teammates, and fight from close quarter combat. The closer to the plane you are, the more effective your guns will be. And trust me, within a couple of days, you're not going to be having any more problems with the so-called close air support.